Welcome to Covered in Pet Hair, a boozy show for pet lovers on Pet Life Radio. I'm your host, Isabel Alvarez-Arata, and today I'm having a drink and a chat with a realtor that's going to help us land the perfect pet-friendly rental. Welcome back to Covered in Pet Hair. I'm your host, Isabel Alvarez-Arata, and today I have the pleasure of having a drink and a chat with a pet parent, a foodie, a coffee lover, a former Army chaplain. He's originally from Abilene, Texas, and now lives in El Paso, Texas, with stops in Fort Worth, Texas, Boston, Massachusetts, and Fort Sill, Oklahoma, all the way in between. He is husband to Elizabeth, dad to Caleb, Joshua, and Daniel. He's cat dad to Calvin and Hobbs. They're black tabbies with some Maine Coon mixed in. He's dad to Spike, a Euromastix lizard who has a spiny tail, I hear. And he's dad to some rescued, fostered, and kept behind goldfish named Goldie, Silver, and Minnie. Because he's in the Army life, I have a feeling he's going to be inheriting a lot of pets that can't move internationally. And that's how those ended up with him. He is the ambassador for PCS Pay It Forward Fort Bliss here in El Paso, Texas, where I live. And he is helping military members solve their housing issues and avoid rental scams. He is pet-friendly realtor with eXp Realty, Brian Hall. Welcome, Brian. It's so good to have you on the show.
Thank you, Isabel. It's finally, I'm very happy that we finally gotten to do this.
I know. It's been a hard thing to do, but I'm so happy we're doing this. And this is actually the last episode of season 3 for me. And I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate the end of a season, right in the middle of PCS season. So how is PCS season so far, 2023?
It's been quite busy for me personally. And I know, it's not as crazy it was for like the service members a couple of years ago when COVID threw a big wrench in all of our lives. But it's rocking and rolling right now.
All right. Well, for those who are watching and don't know what PCS season is, what is PCS season and why do I dread it?
So PCS season is, in the Army, we love our acronyms. So that stands for Permanent Change of Station, which AKA, where's my next new home gonna be kind of thing. So just like a lot of civilians, most military would prefer to move outside the school year so their kids aren't interrupted. And so a lot of it happens in the summertime. And so that's what we're doing right now, is getting people into homes.
Yes, so. Getting people into homes before school starts in the fall. Absolutely. I am grateful that we don't have to do that anymore. Chris retires next year. So awesome. We are staying put, and thank you, Lord, hallelujah. We don't have to PCS ever again, knock on wood. You never know in the Army.
The plan's the plan until the plan changes is what we say.
Exactly. I won't cry victory until he has his retirement paperwork in his hand.
Exactly.
But that is good news for everybody who's staying put. You don't have to worry about it this year, but luckily the military has a lot of resources and people like you and groups like PCS Pay It Forward all over the country, right?
Yes, there's somewhere around 100 different PCS Pay It Forward Facebook groups set up to support people as they move around the country.
Okay, well, one of the things that these people who are PCSing and people who are moving in the summer are going to face is pet-friendly properties. Are they there? Do they exist? Will they accept my personal pet? And we're going to dig into all of that this evening. But before I do that, I want to introduce our drinking game. So anybody at home participating in our drinking game, anytime you hear this word, take a drink of whatever you're enjoying. It doesn't have to be an alcoholic beverage. Just join the fun. But if it is an alcoholic beverage, don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly. And please be over 21 in the U.S. to partake. We have a former member of the military here. He is very strict, as they all are. So don't drink unless you're legally able to. All right, so what are you having today? Anything local?
Not local. It's a Canada Dry, zero sugar ginger ale. So
I'm a big ginger ale fan too. I never have ginger ale in the house because I feel like I'll just drink it in like 3 days because I just love the flavor of ginger ale.
It's really hard not to drink a lot of it at one time. So
I know, especially with the heat in El Paso.
I know, it's summertime.
It is officially summer. I am having something to celebrate the end of the season. I am having an Airway cocktail. Have you heard of an Airway cocktail?
I have not.
I'm sure you've heard of Airway near the airport here in El Paso.
Yes.
So I wanted to keep it, I wanted to make a nod or a nudge to like a local aspect of living in El Paso, since we're both El Pasoans now.
Sure.
This is a classic cocktail that I've never heard about. I learned about it from an Instagram account called Drinking with Nolan. So cheers, Nolan. Thanks for turning me on to this drink. It is actually dark rum, lime juice, honey syrup, and a splash of champagne. It's actually very delicious. Of course, I garnished it with mint leaves from my garden. Here's to you. Thank you for finally joining me for the show.
You're welcome.
Let's do it. Let's dig in. So the first game I want to invite you to play with me is called Renting with Pets, Yay or Nay. So I scoured the internet, the National Association of Realtors, the HSUS, the Humane Society of the United States. And I looked for tips that they give pet parents for navigating finding a pet-friendly rental. So I have compiled a list, and I want to get your input about whether or not these things are important or whether you can skip them. That's why you're going to say yay if you think they're important, nay if they're probably good on the bottom of your list. Are you ready to play?
Right. Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Create a pet resume.
Yay.
Yay. Okay, we're going to dig into the pet resume soon. Don't go anywhere. So you're going to learn more about the pet resume. Plan for additional charges and fees.
Unfortunately, yay.
Yay. Include pet coverage in your renter's insurance policy.
Yay.
Yay. I had never heard of that before.
I haven't either, but that makes sense.
It totally makes sense, and I think it would be a good addition to the pet resume, right?
I think so too. Yeah. Hey, I'm covered.
Yes. Yes, that's a good one. Understand landlord-tenant laws in your state that apply specifically to pets.
Definitely yay.
Yay. Give yourself ample time.
Yay.
Yay. Don't hide your pet.
Definitely yay.
They will find out about your pet the day you have a leak, and you can't get home in time to hide them again, so don't do it. It's not smart. Don't lie about your pet's service or emotional support animal status.
Yay. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't buy one of those.
Honesty is the best policy in general in life, you know? So.
Yeah, we want to make sure you're doing everything on the up and up. And a lot of like your goal is to prevent rental scams. I like to educate people on the fact that emotional support animal like certificates online are a scam. Like they don't mean anything. Don't fall for it. Don't pay for it.
We can talk more about that, I guess, after the game. But yeah, there's some other things. Yeah.
That's a great, if you have additions to that, by all means, I'd love to discuss them. Okay. Work with a realtor.
You can do it by yourself, but if you need additional help, then we're here to provide resources for sure.
Would you say that some markets require more help from a realtor than others?
Yes, I would. I know, again, I don't know how much you want to talk right now, but like I know when we moved to Port Sill, we rented and we didn't really need a realtor help us to locate the property. But I know a lot of people come into El Paso with such a large, geographic area to pick from. It helps to have some local expertise.
That's very true. That's very true. Okay. Invite your potential landlord to meet your pet. Yay or nay?
Yay. I don't see why that would hurt.
Exactly. You can do something cute on the pet resume, being like, I'd
love
to.
Not one I've heard of, but yeah.
Yeah, they might not.
No, a lot of times, landlords aren't even in town, so that may be, a virtual meetup then, of course. So.
Yes. Okay. And then don't bother asking for exceptions. Yay or nay?
I would say it doesn't hurt to ask for exceptions.
I agree with you. Ask for exceptions. You already have the no. You can, who knows, you might get the yes.
Working in this industry, I've found that everything within reason is negotiable. And so.
Absolutely. I feel like in life, everything within reason is negotiable. Ask my kid. He's really good at negotiating things. All right. So you were an Army chaplain and then you are now a realtor. How did this change of career happen and when?
So I left active duty back in 2018 after 7 years on active service, and was Army chaplaincy was a second career. So I was thinking about trying to go back to my first career, which was actually IT programming stuff. And here in El Paso, they didn't have a real large market for that. And I'd kind of already been thinking about get a license to maybe do some real estate investing. And then the shorter version of all this is like my wife said, you should just go for it. And she kind of pushed me out the door, so to speak. And it's been a real blessing to the family. And it's definitely a different work, but in some ways, I was just talking with some realtors today, like we have to be the counselor there when transactions are going south.
Yeah.
And so there is some overlap there. I don't want to over spiritualize things, but yeah, it's been
absolutely
good.
I think that where you hang your hat is a bit of a spiritual process too, like
Sure.
knowing that it's the right thing. If the stars align, if you get the house you wanted, maybe you get the house you didn't want, but it turns out to be the house you wanted. So I think that there is a little bit of a spiritual aspect to this whole process.
Sure. Yeah, so that's one thing we talk about in our initial consultation, especially, even with renters and buyers, like, ultimately, I believe that there's a right place for everyone to live, and we're going to find it. And especially the last couple of years with the way the market has been, it's not just, hey, that's what I want, I'm going to go get it. There's a process, and sometimes it's trying 2 or 3 or 4 times to find a place. But then ultimately, I believe that there's a right place where you're going to end up.
I agree with you. This house that we live in right now was our second home in 2017 that we put an offer on. We didn't get the first home. And looking back, I'm so happy we didn't, because we ended up in a much better neighborhood for the same price.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Better schools around us for a better price. Or the same price. So I'm happy, and I agree with you that there's a lot to it. It's more than just find the listing and put your offer on. All right. So you pair up with your wife now. She's also a realtor.
She is, yes.
That's awesome. So you guys have like a family business of helping people find the right homes. Outside the military, do you find that most of the families you work with also have pets?
Yeah, there's definitely a large contingent of people who do that. And that's one of the reasons a lot of people end up buying their home, because then they have control over who can come in the house then at that point.
Yes, absolutely. Especially when you have pets, that's a really big consideration. We've had to buy everywhere we went because the Army never allowed us to live with 4 pets. I do think that the number of pets that you have really matters when it comes to this. So we will talk about that in a second. But tell me, do you find that it's harder for families with pets to find the right home, whether it be a rental or to buy?
I would say, yeah, sometimes it is a challenge, kind of like you just mentioned with your own example there. Or people who have, larger dogs where, or, even especially, again, most of my clients are military. And so they're, we'd like to live on post, but we're only allowed X number or of certain weight, and we don't fit that. So we have to, and so now we have to change our plans of what we wanted. Exactly. So I think it's, kind of going back to your yay or nay, the sooner you start that process, the better, so that you can have time to adjust if you need it.
Yes. So we lived in Louisiana, Fort Polk, Louisiana before this. And there they allowed us to have 4 pets, and there was no weight limit, but they gave us a tiny duplex. And I was like, there's no way my 4 dogs, 3 of them were big. 2 of them didn't really get along. I was like, and it was a 2-story duplex. So like the living area was tiny, and I was like, this isn't going to work. And then when we
Fight Club here, for your dogs, then
it would have been Fight Club for sure. And then when we got here, we called and they said two pet maximum. And I'm sure people lie, but we would never lie, because that's just the way that we are wired. So my husband, a major, calls in to the housing office and was like, so do you make any exceptions? Speaking of exceptions. And she was like, I just turned down a lieutenant colonel, so I'm pretty sure I can't make an exception for you. And we're like, touche. Yep.
Let rank.
Just kidding. We won't ask again. So what part of the process is the hardest? Is it the fact that landlords are reluctant? Is it the fact that renters with pets tend to be not great renters? What is it that causes this friction when it comes to finding a place that allows pets that the landlord's comfortable with?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I know we're about to be landlords ourselves. And, like we have hardwood floors in our place. And so, we would like those to be in this, wear and tear, obviously, but we don't want, huge scratch marks on our wood floors. And so, yep. And so, so there's that concern. But then I've also am aware of pet renters who are not good renters. An example, I had a military family reach out to me that they were done with being landlords here in El Paso after 10 years. And they wanted me to help sell their home. And like, I walked in that house and I almost couldn't breathe. It was so like, it was so awful. And as I was around that house, so we did several $1,000s of renovations to get it ready to sell, like that new carpet, because it was awful. So,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. And then,
I did a show about ammonia in urine and pet urine, and like how lingering it is, how bad it is for your health. Like
yep.
people really, I can't imagine somebody living there and choosing to live there under those conditions.
And to me, it's got to be one of those things where, like, the metaphor of like the boiling water with a frog kind of thing. Like, you just don't notice it after a while. That's the only way I could, because I mean, like, it took my breath away walking in, and being around that particular house. Like, the neighbors started like, "Oh, what's going on?" And like, they would say like even the backyard was full of poop, and it would like, if they like want to have a barbecue, they had to, like, if the wind was blowing the wrong way, they couldn't be in their backyard. The neighbors couldn't, because the smell. And so it was just, anyways, that's an extreme example. Yes. But definitely one, again, if you're a landlord trying to protect one of your most valuable assets, your a home, like, I understand where they're coming from because of the bad apples that are out there.
Exactly. And I do think people take on more than they can handle as far as pets sometimes. So like, we had 4 pets. It wouldn't have been my choice. My husband had 2. I had 2 when we got married. So
sure.
who's we're going to go? Neither of us.
Right.
So, but I worked from home and I was available and I was able to make that work, and it was our own home, but never did. Sure. My dogs have never caused any issue or damage to my property ever. But that's because I make sure that I'm available and I find a very reliable pet sitter when I can't be here, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So it really is a huge responsibility on the pet parent to make sure that you're doing the best thing for your property, whether it's yours or somebody else's. So let's talk really clearly about the pet resume, why you think it's important, what people should include.
So, yeah, I mean, you want to, for lack of a better term, humanize your pet as much as possible. I don't know if that's a term you like in your show, but
no, that's great. No, usually we don't want to anthropomorphize animals, right, because then we're expecting human behaviors from somebody who can't give that to us. But in this case, they're going to be a resident of the house. So it totally makes sense for them to appear as more of a part of the family than just an accessory.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so that's what I talk about in the resume. Name your pet, like, talk about it by name as opposed to my pet kind of thing. So that's one of the things to talk about. And then, any other, if you've had a good experience with the previous landlord, to include references for your pet then as well. Any certificates of training and things like, again, just like you kind of would any other application, you want to put your best foot forward in those kinds of things.
Absolutely. I'm a landlord. I've been a landlord since 2005. I'm actually selling my property, thank goodness, because it's in Virginia. I don't want to be a landlord anymore in Virginia. But I served as a landlord, I guess, reference for pets multiple times. And honestly, I don't know what the pet was like in their day-to-day, but I know that when the property was returned to me, it was in perfect shape. So I was able to serve as a landlord reference. And obviously, because of what I do, I guess that had some kind of, weight or significance for the other landlords. I feel like if you've worked with a dog trainer, have them write a letter on your behalf. Would that help?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, like, kind of think of your resources. I feel like people kind of blank on what their pet's resume might be, but your pet has a lot of training most of the time. Like, they could be crate trained, which you might want to mention, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
They might have like puppy 101, puppy 102, like Canine Good Citizen certificate, all of these things. Like, even though they seem kind of silly because you've done the class and you're like, I mean, I showed up 4 times to PetSmart. It's still something, right?
Right, exactly. And it speaks to indirectly about you as the pet parent then at that point. So that you have taken those steps to ensure that your pet is going to be best behaved as possible.
I love that so much.
2 other things that were suggested as including, maybe they're not separate, but a picture of your pet as your resume. So again, trying to make it not just a word on a page. And even in some video, then if you've got, some special training, or they can demonstrate that, just to show a picture's worth 1,000 words. A video, 1 minute video is like they say worth 1.8 million words. So video just definitely helps then at that point as well.
It's true. It's true. Especially if you can show them healing, going into their crate, little skills that would give somebody peace of mind. I think that's a great idea. And most stuff is not sent. Like people think of like a pet resume and they think like a piece of paper, but all of this is sent electronically.
Right. Google Doc or something like that, Canva, something. Yeah. There's a whole lot of ways to just email it in or send a link to it kind of thing.
Make it cute. Make it sweet. If you need somebody to help you with it, DM me because I'm a writer and a pet lover, so I can make your pet sound.
You're like the perfect person to help with.
I know. I think I am. I've been a landlord. I feel like I need to like put out a blog, like a
regular resume services. You should just offer your pet resume writing service. So.
I should. I just thought about that. But honestly, it's so hard. I feel like everybody should have access to maybe like a free download. So that's where I'm thinking right now. I'm gonna be like, here's a free download. Here's your pet resume for your next rental application. Would you look at it for me?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Right now, I'm going to take a break. We're going to come back with Brian Hall as soon as we hear from these sponsors, and we're going to dig into something that everybody dreads, pet fees and rentals. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Covered in Pet Hair. I'm your host, Isabel Alvarez-Arata, and today I have the pleasure of having a conversation, my last show of season 3, with Brian Hall of eXp Realty. He is a realtor here in El Paso, a very well-known realtor. He specializes in moves with military families that are coming into Fort Bliss, which is our installation here in El Paso. And so many people are coming because Fort Bliss is growing. He's super busy. He works with his wife, Elizabeth. They're wonderful members of our community. And I'm so happy that he is here to shine a light on the difficulties that pet parents face when looking for rentals specifically. So I want to invite you to play a second game with me, Brian. This one is called Pet Fees. Pet peeves. All right. So pet peeves, of course, because we don't want to pay pet fees, but I want to get your opinion. These pet fees are inevitable. I mean, the first game we talked about, you have to prepare for them. You said, yay. But sometimes they can feel like junk fees. Sometimes they can feel like you were being taken advantage of as pet parents. So I want to give you the type of fee, and I want you to tell me what you, from your professional experience and obviously professional opinion, think of these particular fees. So here we go. A non-refundable pet deposit or fee.
I'm not a huge fan of that, just based on terminology.
Okay, just because it's non-refundable?
Non-refundable deposit is not, those are kind of opposites to me. So.
It's so true. So it really is a fee.
It is. Just call it a fee if you're going to call it that. So. Okay,
exactly. And then what have you seen that cost? Because I feel like I remember this was in, 2012 or 13. I paid like $300 per dog, and it was non-refundable, so it was a fee. And now I imagine it would be more than that.
El Paso historically has been one of the cheaper markets for real estate. So that's something I would say is probably more common now in El Paso, and it may have gone up, recently, because just about everything has gone up recently. Right. But yeah, that's, I haven't seen that be too ridiculous in my opinion, because I've heard of other markets where it's like, $500 or $1,000 or something like that. And that's just not El Paso's market.
Exactly. So. Like you're not going to get that from anybody.
Right.
Okay. A refundable pet deposit.
I think that's appropriate.
And what would you think is appropriate? Because if you like the house that you were referring to, that like nightmare house,
right. Yeah,
like a $300, $500 wouldn't have covered that. So what is appropriate for this fee?
Yeah, I mean, and I think somewhere around that range, maybe 500, kind of on the high end, because again, that was an extreme example, and those tenants had lived there for like 7 years, so they had a lot of time to do that much damage. But if you have a cat who urinates on the carpet, replacing a room of carpet is not, it may be more than 500, but that's at least in the ballpark then at that point for that.
Okay, perfect. And then pet rent, which is becoming much more popular. So it's an add-on to the monthly rental.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I can kind of understand where that's coming from, because I mean, you as the human live and you wear and tear on things, and so that's something that we're discussing, how we wanted to present that on our own personal rental. I don't think it should be more than like, $25 or something like that but,
Okay.
but there may be, because again, market dependent. That's kind of our local market. But again, that's, I understand where that's coming from, just based on the idea of if the family's living in it for a certain amount wear and tear, then the pet probably would have some wear and tear on a much lower scale.
And it's a different type of wear and tear. So I also get it. Like so long as it's something negligible, like $25, $50, I'm cool with it. Obviously, like you're charging me $200 a month for my pets, I'm going somewhere else. It seems because you don't charge for my kids. Like, and you don't charge for kids, which is obviously illegal to do. You wouldn't be able to charge per person who lives there, but you do report who lives there, and you are supposed to like keep your landlord abreast of any new people that move in. So this is kind of like a technicality, and it is a different wear and tear. Like most of your over a 3-year-old children are not peeing on the carpet, so but your pet might pee on the carpet till they're 2 and then again when they're 12. So, it's a little different. Okay. And then this is more common in like apartment complexes, but like initial pet fees, like registration and things like that. What do you think about that?
That, again, it seems that's closer on the junk side of things to me a little bit. Again, yeah. So that there is some administrative cost to there are services that will verify if if you're trying to register as an emotional support animal, there's some verification there. So I understand there's some admin work, but
yes,
if you're $100 for the work, like I don't.
Exactly. Depends. Like if you charge me $50 to call my vet and get like rabies vaccinations or check that I'm registered with the state, but like really most people, you can just ask them for that and they'll show up and bring it to you. So It's really okay. So tell me about what you think pet parents who are starting to look for a rental. They're moving from somewhere that was pet friendly to a different place. And they're starting to look, how much time are we talking to really take the time to find the right place?
There's the extreme example of like, I just showed up and I need a new rental and I can find it in a couple of days because the pet acceptance is the only standard that I need to have at that point. So, but I tell people here in the El Paso market, most landlords don't know more than 30 days out that a rental will be available. Because the tenants have to give notice, and they normally don't have to give notice at 30 days. So there are people who are coming, they know, 6 months ahead of time that they're coming. Great. You can look kind of what part of town. I always tell people you can start window shopping until about 3 weeks out. And then it's like, okay, now I'm really serious then at that point. And within the military context, a lot of times you are given 2 weeks once you get here to find a new place. And I think that's, again, depending on what your standards are. Not that you would need to be in the slums in 2 weeks, but I think that's enough time to kind of find something then that would work for everybody.
Okay, perfect. What does the National Association of Realtors have to say? Is this something that when you go to like conferences and like gatherings, whether locally or nationally, is discussed? Like what are pet friendly properties on anybody's radar?
That's a great point. Not really. Because a lot of the things around National Association of Realtor levels are more on the purchase side. But it's I remember in my first office, one of the ladies who'd been in the business for literally 60 years, I think, and she's like, renters need advice too, about things, and so so I think there is a space that probably could be there's some more resources that could be developed around those kinds of issues that renters face.
Absolutely. So if I had to ask you, please, right now for my audience, pet parents, pet lovers, people who feel that their pets are family, what is the number one tip you give them when they embark on this process of finding the perfect pet friendly rental?
Sure. And I think it's to be somewhat flexible with that. And it's really just like anything else. Here are my must-haves and here are my wants kind of thing. And so if my must-have is to include my pet, then then I really need to be focused on that aspect of on the rental side. That need, and that, well, I may not be in the right, neighborhood that I wanted, but there just aren't rentals available that meet your need then at that point. So it's to have that priority and then be able to be flexible on your other aspects of things.
I agree completely. Flexibility and pet friendliness kind of go hand in hand, because that happens the same with like hotels. You may not end up at the romantic, wonderful hotel you thought you were going to end up with because they don't take dogs over 25 pounds or whatever. Talk to me about size. Size matters. Because of the fact that a lot of places, and I found this with my dogs, that they will take maybe a 25-pound dog and under, but they'll look at a 50-pound dog and say,
Yeah. And again, I think that's just kind of pet parents who didn't take care of and make sure that, and so, because again, the reputation is, well, it's a bigger dog, it's going to do more damage, kind of thing.
Their mouth can. And their mouth certainly can, because I've seen like a golden retriever puppy that was like 50 pounds at 6 months, like tear through drywall. Like I've seen that as a professional pet sitter. So I get that. But like, to me, it's completely counterintuitive, because I work with animals for the past 15 plus years, and I've seen just as much damage from a small pet than I would from a large pet. I do think that obviously from a bite perspective, like if they bite a neighbor, so what are landlords worried about that? Like with breed specifics and size specific based on like aggression and like their interaction in the community?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I definitely hear about, certain breeds are not allowed, and whether fair or unfair. It's because of reputation, and, going back more, I think that's where your pet resume can help in that regard. And so, and then going back to even something else I said, everything's negotiable. So, whether it's be willing, then, hey, I'm willing to put down something extra, as that would be refundable, if there are no issues, so I think that's, again, fair or unfair, certain animal sizes and breeds have a reputation, and we just have to be honest. And what can I do to overcome that?
Exactly. And when you are getting these breeds, I think it's really important to recognize that. Unfortunately, like there is breed specific legislation in some places, but there's just breed specific discrimination in all the places.
Sure.
So when you have a pit bull, a Rottweiler, a Doberman, a German Shepherd, those are probably the ones that stand out. Chow Chow, like some other breeds that are less popular, they're considered dangerous breeds, or some landlords might have like just like a preconceived notion about that specific breed. So your flexibility, like if you find a landlord that does not like pit bulls, look for another one that doesn't really care.
Exactly. And then again, that's why starting as soon as it makes sense to, as you can, to allow your time to like be flexible.
Yes, absolutely. So tell us more about PCS Pay It Forward and how my audience can join the movement wherever they are.
Sure. So PCS Pay It Forward was started out in San Diego originally by Lauren Taylor is her name, and then kind of was a brainchild of her just because she was seeing the need for military families to there was a gap in the process. And so that's, and you may be familiar that there's the sponsorship program, at least within the Army, where I kind of felt like if they were really doing their job, then we wouldn't be needed here. But so that's kind of where we're, housing, but I also try to provide, local community information as well. Cause, we want our military families to feel like they're in a community, not just at the installation. And so that's what we really strive for. So that's kind of so we provide information for on-post housing. If that's the route they want to go. Renting, I will provide, custom rental lists that they can check out. And then if people want to buy a house, then we can definitely help them do that too. So,
and sell when they move, right?
Absolutely. Yes. So I'm a realtor. I buy and sell both sides.
And I love that you post in your group, and he's obviously specific to Fort Bliss, but you post in your group, like military family would love to see another military family take this home. Like I'm sharing this with you because I want to make this easier for you. Obviously, the sales market here, the purchase market is so hot that people are sending letters to sellers, right? Like trying to like win their heart so they accept their offer. And things are really much more difficult today than they were. Like even when I moved to Louisiana in 2015, I didn't have to write anybody a letter. I had like 10 houses to like choose from.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how it was when we moved to Fort Bliss in 2015 ourselves. You know, we shopped all weekend and then we went back for a second viewing, and then it was like, yeah, I think this is the one we want. And we, you know, there was no even counter on our offer. So
see, we when we moved to Louisiana, it was so simple, but we got there and like we've never purchased a home seeing it. This is a lot that happens to military families. Like we've never seen it other than like on FaceTime or the virtual tour. And when we got to Louisiana, like our windows had to be replaced. It was a nightmare. When we got here, we had a great realtor and he really set us up for success. It was wonderful. So realtors are so key in these military processes, whether you're renting or buying or whatever it is. I wish that Fort Polk had a PCS pay it forward when I moved there. I don't believe that they did. And I will echo what you said, that it's not just about the move, it's about thriving where you're at. So you guys share like restaurant recommendations, events. I've posted questions about schools in your group. I'm really grateful as a part of the community that you guys are here, even though in a year I won't be part of the military, really like PCSing lifestyle, but I still am part of the community and I want to help people here move here and thrive. So I think it's such a great concept.
And we really appreciate the community experts because there's, you know, I mean, your experience here in El Paso, you learned a lot from your own time living here. And that's what, you know, I don't want to be the only source of information for folks for many different reasons. I don't want to be the only source.
Well, so if you ever need pet content related to El Paso, by all means, let me know. I'm happy to contribute. Yeah. So many opinions. Well, I just want to propose a toast to you. So thank you so much, Brian, for taking the time to chat with me today. I'm so grateful for you and your family and everything you do for our community here. Cheers.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure. I also want to propose a toast to my executive producer, Mark Winter. Thank you, Mark. Here's to the last episode of season 3 of Covered in Pet Hair. And to my audience, thank you for joining us for another season, another bunch of episodes, and stay tuned for season 4 because I'm going to start inviting some famous folk to chat about their pets next season. That's my goal, so stay tuned. Here's to a life covered in pet hair because there's no better way to live. Cheers.
Cheers.
To learn more about Covered in Pet Hair, please visit coveredinpethair.com or petliferadio.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.